All right, guys, so I am on Article 2, Section 2. Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution of the United States. So, Article 2, Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of the respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So he can't save himself. So right here is talking about, so it's Article 2, Section 2. Is given his executive power, or his power over the Army and Navy, etc. The Commander-in-Chief. So here, Article 2, Section 2 is given the power to the President as Commander-in-Chief. He may require, okay, I already read that. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate 2/3 of the senators. He shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. So Article 2, Section 2 is a little side note. Article 2, Section 2 is principally concerned with outlining the powers of the President, but given the enormous power of the modern presidency, it seems remarkably short and vague in its prescription. So Article 2, Section 2 is principally concerned with outlining the powers of the President, but given the enormous power of the modern presidency, it seems remarkably short and vague in its prescriptions. Certainly the most important and controversial of those powers has devolved from the President's role as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militias of the several states. That role, which has given the President enormous power to make war, has sometimes come in conflict with the power of Congress to declare war, as well as with Congress's power to control the financial appropriations necessary to make fighting a war possible. That role, which has given the President enormous power to make war, has sometimes come in conflict with the power of Congress to declare war, as with Congress's power to control the financial appropriations necessary to make fighting a war possible. By the terms of Article 2, Section 2, the President has a primary role in entering into treaties with other nations, although it reserves to the Senate the right to approve any treaty before it assumes the force of law. The President has the power, with the advice and consent of the Senate, to appoint ambassadors, ministers, justices of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. In recent decades, as the Supreme Court has become a more powerful and assertive branch of the federal government, members of the Senate have responded by asserting more vigorously their right to advise and consent with respect to the appointment of justices of the court. The President's use of the power to appoint all the officers of the United States has increased in direct proportion to the growing power of the federal government and of the executive branch in particular. Although the Founding Fathers no doubt assumed that the President would appoint members of a presidential cabinet, they would perhaps have been surprised at the growth in the size and scope of the bureaucracy serving each of the cabinet departments. The President's cabinet has expanded from 4 members in President Washington's day the secretaries of Treasury, War, and State. The secretaries of Treasury, secretaries of War, and secretaries of State, and the Attorney General. To 15, not including the Vice President today. Thanks, my fucking classmate over there. Makes me feel old. He looks like an old dude. So am I, huh? Anyway, y'all. Peace. That was Article 2, Section 2.